Hello, I'm Bill Helvey, and today we're going to do a watercolor, a nude watercolor. And I have drawn previously from life a number of figure drawings on watercolor paper. And I think we will try one and a little different. And this one today will be on a toned sheet of paper. So let's get to work. I work with very simple materials. This is nothing but a toothpick. I'm going to use ink, permanent ink, in this case a red ink on a toned sheet of paper. And I'm going to go over the lines with ink, and then we'll apply watercolor over the lines. So let's go through and add some lines. The primary reason I like to use a toothpick is that they have such broad lines. You can do thin lines. They're very versatile, and they're cheap. You can pick up a nice toothpick just about anywhere. A lot of this has to do with figure drawing and knowing a little bit about human anatomy. But this forms the basis of the painting. And these lines will show through once we start to watercolor. Free and loose, thick and thin lines. And if you make a mistake, that's not so bad. Gradually the figure is filled in. The hip area here is one of the most important, so we'll make sure we get a good line. Good thick and thin lines. And gradually it's finished. This takes only a couple of minutes. Okay, after that dries, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, at this point I no longer need the original graphite lines that were drawn, so I'm going to take a kneaded eraser and go right over the drawing, erase most of those. And the kneaded eraser does a nice clean job of erasing, and it doesn't affect the ink lines whatsoever. Okay, I have pre-mixed a little bit of flesh color using a 1/2 inch flat brush, and I'm going to think of the light coming behind the figure coming across. This part will be in shadow. The upper part here will be the lightest part of the drawing and painting. So we basically start working in the shadow areas. Creating a nice wash of flesh tones. And the paper does a nice job of receiving the ink and the watercolor. This is a little different than working on white because you already have a gray tone, or actually a middle tone of color that helps somewhat in doing the shadow work. Okay, that didn't take long. Put a little bit of this color in the hair to give it some local color. Now we're going to add a little bit more to show the darkest shadows. Okay, I think we're about finished with this stage. I think we will let it dry. We'll come back. We will finish up. It is sufficiently dry now. I'm going to put a really dramatic tone in the background using a 1-inch brush, and it puts a lot of color down quickly. And I'm going to use a blue with a very bold line of just provide a lot of contrast between the figure and the background. Makes the eye look very quickly to the figure and provides a contrast between the buff color of the paper, the figure's color, and then the background. I'm going to add a little bit of red to that. Soften it a little bit for the foreground. You can see this 1-inch brush covers a lot of area very quickly, very spontaneously. And I'm not going to paint the whole background or the foreground. I'm going to leave a lot of the buff color showing, which gives another dimension. Now I'm going to use a smaller brush for some of the detail areas over here. And leave a lot of the detail work to the imagination. Okay, with a smaller brush, pointed brush, I'm going to work on the hair, and I have mixed a red and a little bit of black to give it some very dark lines. Work in the shadow areas with darker tones. Thin it a little bit so you can give a lighter, get a little free brush and let the brush do the work for you. And let the brush do a little bit of line work. The pointed brush gives enough definition to show dark folds in the hair. and the shadows. Let's give a little darker area here and here. Okay, I think we're about finished. We're going to do one more little thing. I might help the drawing a little bit. And add some white on the back side of the figure. Again, with a pointed brush and a liquid white, I'm going to add very slight amount of white in the area here, which is the brightest part of the figure. Kind of gives a definition from the background. It doesn't take much. Less is probably better in this case. Okay, let's see how that works. That's probably enough. Then with a very small brush, I'm going to add a little bit of red to give a little bit of lip color. One of the most interesting parts of painting is when do you actually stop, and I think this is the point to do that. So enjoy doing figure work, painting, drawing, and try your own hand at painting the nude. Thanks for watching.